Hey everybody, welcome back to another Office Hours. This is the one that I promised last week on Channel Program's new product, NaviStack. So today I have with me Matt Solomon and Kevin Lancaster from the Channel Program, and let's bring them up and let's talk about what we're going to do today and a little bit about Channel Program for those of you who are not familiar with what they do. Hey Matt, hey Kevin.
Hey Eric, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. I love getting new stuff out into the channel, letting people know what's available. And I actually think that this is something that it's almost like that, who said it? Henry Ford said, if I had built what they wanted, I would have gotten them a faster horse. And this is something that I don't think people really thought of as something that they needed. But now that you've done it, it makes a whole lot of sense. So who wants to tell me a little bit about what Channel Program is, first of all, before we get into this new product that you've released?
Yes, I'll take that one if you don't mind. So Channel Program is it's a platform that we built over the last 18 months, 20 months, something like that, and it's really designed to unite the channel, right? So we've talked often in the past about the fragmentation of this industry. It's a massive industry. I think Jay McBain pays it at like $2 billion or $2 trillion, but it's just massively fragmented. And every day, if you think about it from an MSP's point of view, seems like dozens and dozens of new technology entrants. And how does an MSP make decisions on which technologies to add to their stack and which ones to kind of sit on? So we went down the path of building out this two-sided marketplace that allows the MSP to anonymously come into the platform, find solutions, but then more importantly, engage with their existing vendors. That was kind of the real next level step for us with this NaviStack platform, is allowing MSPs to come in one consolidated portal to access their vendors, communicate, grab all the technical documentation and enablement materials, and just start simplifying the lives of the MSPs in this time where it's becoming more and more chaotic.
And I know that some of the things have been a little controversial, especially like the anonymity piece, right? Where I think it's really good because I see what I think some other people have seen in this industry, where the partners are starting to gain more control and being able to say, hey, I don't want my name on your list, but I want to evaluate what you have and get information on it. Then if I need it, I'll reach out. So I think that's, though controversial, I think it's brilliant. And then from a vendor standpoint, how are vendors taking that, and what's the success that vendors are having with this kind of new model?
Yeah, Kevin, I'll chime in, or you want to chime in on it too. But I think it's definitely something new for vendors. A new mentality. I think what we really tried to impress upon them was, one, at that time you're getting full stage time, right? A lot of these vendors don't get stage time at any event, so there was that piece of it. Right, they were really getting to have their 7 minutes on main stage, have that equal footing with other larger vendors. And then really we wanted to focus their the efforts on the MSPs that actually want to engage with them. There's value to all kinds of contact information, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, but especially as an emerging vendor, you really do need to spend your efforts on the MSPs that are actually interested in your product. You just don't have the bandwidth to do a catch-all. And so that's what really, I think won people over, is it honed in on, all right, here are the actual 30 MSPs that are interested in your product, and they've raised their hand. They've said, I'm willing to give up my anonymity to have a conversation. So I think the vendors have been pretty receptive to it.
Yeah, and I think that you're exactly right. Hand raisers are much more valuable, and if you're filtering those out before it gets to the vendor, you're right. The vendor's doing less work, and especially with a new or a younger vendor that doesn't have the mature sales team and doesn't have the mature sales funnel yet to do that filtering, I think you're saving them time and money.
Yeah, I mean, in those cases, a lot of cases, it's the actual owner doing the demos at that point.
Right, exactly. And we all know people like that, right? Because we all we talk to these people all of the time. These people who just develop a new product and want to bring it to the channel. It's typically sometimes like starting an MSP. It's just them. So, all right.
Yeah,
So
you're exactly right.
I know the thing that we really want to talk about today is NaviStack. So, what is NaviStack, and why is it going to benefit the MSP?
Kevin, I'll let
This is where I speak now. Yeah.
I'll be the show and teller. I'll be the Vanna White today.
There you go. So as we kind of it's mentioned kind of the jump, we want to create this home. We want to create call it a safe space, but a place where an MSP can go in, they could add the vendors that they work with to their stack, and they could also find new vendors. What's really great about the platform that we've built is that we're well over 3,000 product reviews at this point, and they're all validated MSP, so your peers, providing feedback on the technology solutions that they use day in and day out. And so if I'm an MSP, I'm going in and I'm adding the vendor that I'm using for backup. I'm adding the vendor I'm using for RMM and email security. But maybe if I have a gap in my stack, I can go out and look at the product reviews and see what the market's saying about these solutions. And I can look at the stack charts, and if I'm looking for a visual representation of how the industry is perceiving these technologies, I can jump on the stack charts real quick and see, which ones are popular and which ones have high customer satisfaction, and then drill down into those product reviews. And so we built this in a way that it protects the anonymity, but it's meaningful for the multiple personas at an MSP. So it could be the technician looking for technical documentation from their partners every time there's a new update to a product. It could be the marketing folks that are looking for those sales enablement materials, and it could be the business owner that's looking for these, newer solutions and ways to increase EBITDA, increase, revenue and margin, and decrease, expense and increase productivity. So we kind of built this framework with all those elements in mind. And to Matt's point, that's why it's moving, so darn fast.
And you did it in a visual format, so it's very easy for them to organize and kind of find what they're looking for. Cool.
It is. It definitely is.
So do we want to go ahead and show them what it looks like?
I would absolutely love to.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Kevin said, it's the first time ever an MSP can actually visualize their stack, and I think it's incredibly important. He mentioned the different roles that people have. I mean, just even think about like a new employee starting. People have spreadsheets. They have every MSP I talk to manages this in a very different way. So this is the first time you can actually visualize your stack. What we've done is we've populated it with, I think, Kevin, the first 29 or 30 kind of main categories based on the industry. But what's nice, Eric, is you can totally customize it. So you can add categories. We've seen pretty fascinating things. I think sometimes we forget that even Zoom or, a payroll company is part of your stack. It's not maybe your traditional, cybersecurity companies, but it is part of the stack. And for various employees, they do actually need to know the different organizations that you're working with. So we've seen some really, really interesting products being added and requested. So again, visually, what we'll be able to do, this is version 1, but it's essentially a drag and drop concept. So you'd be able to drag and drop the companies you work with. There's searches we have hundreds and hundreds of companies, and you can start seeing the different companies that have been rated. And again, you'd be able to add those in. And then a big piece of this is also the ability to identify gaps in your stack as well. So in this case, right, obviously this is just an example, but in this case, they don't have a dark web company. So this is in a way to start saying, okay, wow, that's an area in our stack that that we need to look into. And obviously in our platform, you can check out all the different dark web monitoring companies and see how different MSPs have rated them. So it's really an incredible way to see what you're also missing from your stack. In terms of actually adding an organization to your stack, you click the button. I'll do a couple examples here. So you can search by category areas, then subcategory. You can also search a vendor. So if I know I work with SaaS alerts, I can simply type them in. They would pop up. And what's neat is there's 2 options. So if I'm a current partner, I would obviously identify myself as a current partner, and this may give me access to a partner portal, which we'll show here in a couple minutes. But then also as an MSP, if I'm interested, maybe this is a gap that I've identified in my stack, I can request more information, and this will enable me to get a request into SaaS alerts that I'd like them to reach out to me. Essentially, going back to what we said, raising my hand, right? If there is a product that you don't see on here, if I'll just type in something here, it will tell you, all snap, don't see your vendor or product. And it's essentially a request form. And what's neat, I mean, I think we've gotten, I don't know, almost 50 requests now for different products over just the last week, Eric. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Actually, even this morning, I saw 5 new product requests. I haven't even taken a look at them yet. But it's really neat because we're hearing about technologies, some that I've never even heard of. So it's really interesting to see how MSPs are using different products and maybe not being as vocal about them, out in the public. But it's been very, it's been mind blowing actually to see the different products that people are using.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed there that I was actually, the question had come up while you were showing me the interface initially, is do you support subcategories? Because especially with something like cybersecurity, I could imagine that being broken out into several subcategories.
Yeah,
I think just on our stack charts, I think we have something in the neighborhood of 400 different product categories. Not all of them are surfaced yet, but yeah, it's amazing when you get into kind of the spider web of products, and the gray areas between products. I mean, and then some vendors want to come in and create their own brand new categories, and so there's kind of that concept of category sprawl. But yeah, there's subcategorization, and I think it's going to be important because you know how fast technology evolves, and next month there's going to be 4 new categories that we're all going to have to be thinking about and adding to our stacks.
Yeah, and Eric, you can see here, right now there's 35 subcategories, and the nice thing is we're flexible. The MSP's feedback is how this thing evolves, right? So if we have an MSP and they're like, hey, you don't have this subcategory, or if there's one missing, we're pretty instantaneously updating these charts.
Now, quick question on this, because I know, we all know MSPs like to customize things their way. Are these categories something that you guys set up and put a vendor into, or can they kind of decide what category it goes into?
So they can absolutely have the flexibility to take a vendor and maybe they're using, maybe the product is known for a specific product category. Maybe they're using that product in a different way. They can add that to whatever product category they seem fit within their stack, which I think is important. And I also want to touch on one topic or note something here real quick. We mentioned we're working with hundreds and hundreds of vendors, and the goal is to surface as much and as valuable data as possible. And some vendors are paying vendors, and they're paying to enable the partner portal in the platform. But then we've got hundreds of vendors that are not paying. And so we're doing this in a way that we're trying to give as much flexibility and as much visibility to every vendor in the platform, with just that one little caveat being, if the vendor wants to turn on the partner portal, then there'll be a paying vendor. And because we want to surface data, evenly throughout this, we don't want to be biased. This platform is all about how the MSP perceives technologies, how the MSP wants to use technologies. And that's why we've leaned into like this ultimate customization. So if your stack only has, 20 products in it, fine. If you want to add, I think we've had some get up close to 50 product categories within their stack. You have that flexibility, and as Matt showed, if there's a vendor that's not in here, just hit that little easy button, and we'll go out there and we'll shake the trees for you.
Yep, and I like that concept. In fact, I do the same thing with all things MSP, right? I don't have a pay-to-play model. I want all vendors to participate. If they want more, they can buy more. But I want everybody to be exposed to the audience, because the goal here is for MSPs to be able to see everything. And I think that's kind of the same kind of thing that you have done with this, is to be able to put all the vendors in front of the partners and let the partners decide.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have an example of this, Eric. Um, every week, we have a top trending products and top trending companies, and it's heavily based on product reviews in a given week. So I'll show you that example over here. Right here, we got the top trending products, top trending companies, and last week I posted on my Facebook page, I posted the top trending companies, and somebody gave me slack, and they were like, oh, this is only paying customers of yours, et cetera, et cetera. But I can tell you, I won't name who, but there's a couple on this list this week that are not paying customers of ours. So it is open ecosystem. It is the MSPs that are making this top trending company happen. It's not channel program. So
Yeah, and
it,
not to get too meta here, but you use that word ecosystem, and it's a word that Jay McBain uses. It's a word that I think is very relevant, and all of the vendors and all of the partners are part of the ecosystem. And so if you're trying to do what's best for the industry, you're going to show everything, the whole ecosystem, not just a subset that's paying you.
No, exactly. There's, and again, I'd preface this is version one, Kevin. I think it is important to talk about kind of where this is going. I think because it's right now it's really a visual representation. I do want to get into where this feeds into from the partner portals, but maybe if you can just touch on kind of the future iterations of where we're headed with this, because it's pretty, to me, it's mind blowing what it's going to do here in the future.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And what's been really interesting to see as we've launched in the first, just the first week, it feels like thousands and thousands of products added to stacks. And as Matt mentioned, we're getting inquiries or suggestions of new vendors. Ultimately, as we progress, and we'll hit this, I think, a critical mass or an inflection point here in a couple of weeks where we can start basically benchmarking. And so we can show, let's say you're a $2 million MSP, we can show how your stack compares to other $2 million MSPs, or maybe it's based on number of endpoints or geography. So I think that's a really important piece for a lot of MSPs, just to see how your stack stacks up against maybe your competitors in geography, or maybe there's emerging product categories you haven't thought about, and so we can start to show or surface that trend data over time to help the MSPs make better decisions about their stacks. And then as we progress, we're getting into pricing data. We're getting into some really interesting different areas, but I think just the immediacy of being able to benchmark and see where you kind of rank or stack relative to your peers, I think is going to be very powerful for the MSPs, and that's on the short-term roadmap for sure.
Yeah, because stack management and pricing is a huge time suck for a lot of MSPs, because it is something you need to do. You need to be evaluating, the products and services that you're providing. And with the technology changing so quickly, it's something you have to do. But if you guys are helping them become more efficient in doing that, you're actually saving them money.
Yeah,
that's the goal. And we can surface in here, we can surface maybe some suggested vendors. And again, as we get a little bit more sophisticated with the platform, again, we'll start to do maybe some pricing comparisons and matrix and stuff like that. But yeah, this is all about, I've had the pleasure, I guess, of sitting on 3 or 4 different sides of this marketplace. I built a large and exited a large IT services company. I built arguably the fastest growing cybersecurity in the channel, and I ran corp dev for the largest platform. So I've seen the friction, I've seen the challenges, all throughout this entire, we've mentioned that word ecosystem, and again, we had to build this in a way that's going to provide maximum value to the MSP, because it's, if we can't solve the MSP's challenges, then we don't have a $2 trillion industry, as Jay points out. So it's all about leaning in and making sure that we're making it as easy as possible for the MSPs to build, manage, and make better decisions.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Eric, I think this becomes the homepage for an MSP, because of what we're going to be consolidating. It's really going to become a customized dashboard view of everything they're managing from their vendor perspective, product updates, events happening within their own ecosystem of their vendors. But another really important piece, and I'll show it here because I mentioned it in the beginning, is this issue with every time you sign up with a vendor, you're asked to log into their partner portal, which sounds awesome, except that you have to log into 30 different partner portals to get your sales enablement materials, your vendor documentation, etc. And so what we created really was the first one to many. And so again, as you start filling this out, it'll start putting in requests, hey, I'd like access to your partner portal as well. And so I'll kind of give you an example here. So I've got a portal access granted. And so SaaS Alerts is one of the companies here. So click into them. And what you start to get is that exactly what I just described is the brandable white labeled content. It's literally drag and drop logos. That's typically what an MSP wants to do when in the white label. They want to be able to put their logo, their contact information, vendor documentation. That could be FAQs or anything the vendor deems really important for you to have as a partner, educational blogs, and then training videos. And what we found in general, Eric, and your experience may be different, but most partner portals or PRMs, however you want to refer to them, are over-engineered. They're overpriced, and for the MSPs don't use every bell and whistle that are in there. They really focus. The line Kevin mentioned is that we spend 100% of our efforts on the 20% that an MSP actually uses in a partner portal. And so that's what we've really tried to hone in on here. And then the other really critical piece to this is it's the first time ever as a MSP, I can communicate with my entire vendor network in a single place. So here's SaaS Alerts as an example. Jim's the CEO. Michelle and Amy are on the marketing side. So it depends, who the person is that you need to contact. But if I wanted to get in contact with Amy Carr, I can simply send a message directly here, and then do the same for Blumera or Nodeware, all the different vendors that I'm working with, which just hasn't existed. And I can tell you, Eric, when I'm on the road with MSPs, and I do ask the question because I want to make this, we want to make this exactly to what they want and need. They are often saying they don't know who, or the technicians don't know who to contact within their own vendors. And so that's one of the big pieces we're trying to fix here.
Yep. I mean, I've experienced that myself, because so many times as vendors, we deal directly with owners of MSPs, right? And I'm just going to call them out. They're not great at putting all of this information in their CRM. And so this overcomes that problem.
Yeah,
it does. And you think about it from the vendor's point of view, right? I would often give an example, like with ID Agent, the last company built and scaled and sold. When we had the first 50 MSPs as partners, I think we did a pretty darn good job of I think just about every one of them had my cell phone number, and they would text me, hey, you guys should do this, you should do that, and very fluid, very engaged. But we got to 200, 300, 400, 1,000, 2,000 partners. We did lean into building out what I think was arguably a world-class channel enablement program, but it was definitely challenging for us to communicate the updates and just interact with our existing channel partners. Just because at scale it just becomes harder. And so I think one of the great things on the flip side of this is that the vendor logs in and they can chat with their channel, right? So we can make that communication with the channel very easy. Anytime that a vendor puts a document in there, their channel is going to get alerted. If they want to chat, or we've got a broadcast feature that we're going to release. We're making it easier for the vendor to communicate, because you're going to go back to ID Agent days. We come up with security awareness training platform. And we sent out emails to our channel, and we thought, great, everybody's gonna love this, but we realized that only maybe 10-15% of our partners actually saw the email, right? Just because of deliverability and all those issues. And so the way we've architected this, it will absolutely improve communication on both sides of the equation, and that's what we want.
Yeah, that's really. I mean, I think you've done so much to bring things together, and that's what I like about it. That's one of the reasons why I started All Things MSP was I saw this, the fracturedness of the industry, same thing that you guys talk about. And, bringing it all together in one place like this. Originally, when I saw this, when Matt showed me channel program itself for the first time, I was like, yes, that's what we've needed all along.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. And one other thing I was thinking about, Eric, we often say, like, let your voice be heard as an MSP, right? Provide the feedback. And, I think definitely there's MSPs buy into it. Some might think it's cheesy, but I do want to give an example of how powerful these product reviews can be. And it's not just the overall score that an MSP gives. We have the, open questions about roadmap. And, there's nothing more frustrating as an MSP. You want something on the roadmap, you ask for it and you don't get it. And I'll kind of give MSPs kind of the inside view on what happens at a vendor. A lot of vendors is a lot of these vendors are growing really fast. They're extremely busy. They're on the road, and so what would happen is I'd be on the road. I'd hear something from MSPs. I'd come back and tell everybody. Kevin would hear something different. He'd tell everybody. Three other people would do the same thing, and then we just wouldn't document it properly. And it's one thing to tell a product manager that you heard somebody say something. It is another thing to be able to pull a report of MSPs actually writing it down and documenting it for them and saying, okay, I have told you now 20 times that we need this on the product roadmap. Here are 50 MSPs that have now put it on public, made it public knowledge that this is what they want. And it's just infinitely more powerful. So I really do think it raises the voice of MSPs and starts to get them these product updates that they actually want these vendors to deliver on.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, being on the vendor side myself and being on the road just like you, I've gotten all of that same type of input and suggestions. And you're right. I mean, just emailing the product team isn't enough. It needs to be something, because they're data-driven people, right? Most of the time. And bringing them a report rather than just a one-by-one anecdotal suggestion is much more powerful.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to show me in terms of NaviStack?
No, I mean, I think go ahead, Kevin.
Kinds of stuff that we would love to show you, but not quite there yet. But we're going to iterate fast on this platform and really bring to people what they want.
Yep. Yeah. So it sounds like this is phase one.
Oh yeah, this is phase one. There's what we have on the roadmap is it truly, I've said mind blowing 3 times now, but it is really mind blowing. It's game changing. It's not hyperbole. It really is going to change how MSPs manage their vendors. I do believe it will become the homepage for MSPs. And I'll answer the $1 million question we get almost every time is, how much does it cost for an MSP? And the answer is, it is a free resource for MSPs. As we've talked about, Eric, the vendors are the ones paying to be part of the platform. That's how we've been able to deliver this, to the MSPs at no cost. So an MSP can go in today and start adding the vendors to their stack, start visualizing their stack and getting it ready for version 2, 3, and 4 that are coming.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned once you guys have the data, you're going to start sharing that so that MSPs can benchmark and things like that. I think that's amazing. That will help tremendously, especially going back to that topic of saving them time when they're evaluating their stack. And then there's one thing that I want to point out that I really appreciate that you did during this presentation. And that is you refuse to call this a single pane of glass.
We've been baited into that a couple of times.
Well, I appreciate
it. Yeah. Bite my tongue. No. It's the homepage.
Yes.
And it's the homepage.
And I think that's a much better description of it anyway.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. It does get brought up quite often, but we don't want to fall in that trap.
All right. Well, thanks very much, guys, for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And everybody else, see us in the next office hours.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Eric.
To learn more about Channel Program and their new product, NaviStack, please go to www.channelprogram.com. And don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channel right here and subscribe to All Things MSP so you don't miss another piece of content. See you in the next one.